this proposal, that in defeating this proposal, we are going to tell the American people that there are at least some of us here who understand what our jobs and our obligations are. That is that we are supposed to represent them, the middle class of this country, and not just wealthy campaign contributors or bow to the interest of the lobbyists who are all over this place. You know, Madam President, when I talked a moment ago about the need to invest in our infrastructure as a way to create jobs, being more cost effective than some of these business tax breaks, I'm looking right now at a Wall Street Journal article, December 9th, 2010. And here's what the article says. Headline, companies clean the cash. It's the headline, companies clean the cash. Coffers swell to 51-year high as cautious firms put off investing in growth. It's a story by Justin Lahart. Here's the story. Makes the point that I've been trying to express here. Corporate America's cash pile has hit its highest level in half a century. Rather than pouring their money into building plants or hiring workers, non-financial companies in the United States were sitting on $1.93 trillion in cash. I said $2 trillion. I stand corrected. $1.93 trillion in cash and other liquid assets at the end of September, up from $1.8 trillion at the end of June, Reserve said Thursday. Cash accounted for 7.4% of the company's total assets, the largest share since 1959. The cash buildup shows the deep caution many companies feel about investing in expansion while the economic recovery remains painfully slow and high unemployment and battered household finances continue to limit consumers' ability to spend. Well, what have we been talking about all afternoon? This is the Wall Street Journal, frankly, not my favorite paper, but that is what they are saying, is that the way you're going to get the economy moving again is to put money in the hands of working people who will then go out and buy the goods and services that these companies produce. I have my doubts about whether or not these tax breaks will, in fact, have the desired result. But as I said earlier, and will say again, I think the most effective way to create jobs, the most important way to create jobs, is to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure. And that is our roads, our bridges, our rail systems, our water systems, our wastewater plants, our dams, our levees, the need to improve broadband, to make sure that every community in America has access to good quality broadband, has access to cell phone service. Unfortunately, as best as I can understand, there has not been one nickel appropriated in this piece of legislation, this proposed legislation, which would go to infrastructure. I think that this proposal should be defeated because it is not a strong proposal for the middle class. It is a proposal which gives much too much to people who don't need it. And it is a proposal which I think sets the stage for similar type proposals down the pike. And I apologize to anyone who has been listening for any length of time, and I know that I've been, to say the least, a bit repetitious. But concern here is that when the President and some of my Republican colleagues talk about some of these tax breaks being temporary, we're just going to extend them for 2 years, talking about this tax holiday being just 1 year. I have been in Washington long enough to know that that assertion just doesn't fly, that what is temporary today is long-term tomorrow and is permanent the next day. So I fear very much that this proposal is bad on the surface. I fear very much that this proposal will lead us down a very bad track in terms of more trickle-down economics, which benefits the tricklers and not the ordinary Americans. So I think that it is a proposal which should be defeated. But, Madam President, the point that I want to make is that is not just my point of view. I think it should be defeated. I think we can do a lot better. But I've got to tell you that the calls that are coming in to my office are, here's what we got today, I guess, 2,122 calls opposed deal, and I think are supportive of the deal. So you can do the arithmetic on it. But that is at least 95% of the calls that I got today are saying this is not a good deal. We can do better. And I know that in the last 3 or 4 days, we've gotten probably now 6,000 or 7,000 calls that say this. And this is not just Vermont. And many of those calls come from out of state, by the way, not just from Vermont. But I think that is true all over this country. So, Madam President, let me conclude, and it has been a long day. Let me simply say that I believe the proposal that was developed by the President and the Republicans are nowhere near as good as we can achieve. I don't know that we are able ourselves to get the handful of Republicans that we need to say no to this agreement. But I do believe that if the American people stand up, and by the way, it may not just be Republicans, there may be some Democrats as well. If the American people stand up and say, we can do better than this, that we don't need to drive up the national debt by giving tax breaks to millionaires and billionaires, that if the American people are prepared to stand and we are prepared to follow them, I think we can defeat this proposal. I think we can come up with a better proposal which better reflects the needs of the middle class and working families of our country, and to me, most importantly, the children of our country. And with that, Madam President, I would yield the floor.
We'll call the roll.
Mr.